morning, the coroner handed down her findings into the inquest of the death of our beloved son, Ricky Dougie Hampson, better known as Dougie. Losing our son was the hardest thing we've ever been through. We're going through this process. This comes close second. It was the 3rd year anniversary of Dougie's death only 4 days ago. It has been 3 years of agony for my family living without our son. Every day has been hell for us. We struggle to get up, we struggle to breathe, but carry on in the hope that we're going to get justice for our son. After 3 long years of fighting for justice and change, we feel that we finally are on the path to justice after receiving these findings and recommendations. But we will never heal fully as a family until we receive justice for Dougie. This is only the beginning. There can be no healing without justice. All recommendations made by the coroner should be legally enforced to make sure they're followed through. Getting these reforms won't bring Dougie back. Nothing will do that. If we can save lives of other First Nations people by getting these reforms through, it will come some way towards healing the pain my family and I carry inside. We don't trust the healthcare system because the health system kills our people. It doesn't heal. The coroner has made the findings that my son's death was preventable. He didn't have to die. If Dubbo Base Hospital had done their job, he would be with us here today. A lot of blackfellas don't normally go to hospital because of the track record of the health system in this country. We are scared to go to hospitals and the fear is real. Just look at what happened to our beloved son. He was terrified of hospitals, but he still went to Dubbo Base Hospital because that day he knew something was seriously wrong. And what did he get in return? His worst fears become a reality. Dougie walked out of that hospital with a death sentence because he was ignored and treated so poorly by the very people who should have saved his life. He died alone and without family, and he died even though he did everything that a patient should have done. Me and my family are so outraged at the thought of Dougie being surrounded by so many doctors, nurses, medical professionals for 18 hours who had the skills, resources and knowledge to save his life. He spent those many hours in that hospital scared, alone, without family, in pain, while the doctors and nurses were failing to do their jobs. Shame on Dubbo Base Hospital. This is the reality that blackfellas live with in this colony. The hospitals in this country kill Aboriginal people. That's the reality our mob live with every day. Dubbo Base Hospital should have saved our son's life. Instead, they killed him. The coroner made the findings that the care and treatment that Dougie received at Dubbo Base Hospital was inadequate and below standard at every stage of his stay at Dubbo Base Hospital. Dougie was failed at triage, at diagnosis, treatment and discharge. He was failed when the misdiagnosis of cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, and he was failed when they wrongfully administered Kamilaroi. He was failed when they ignored his pain and his worsening symptoms. He was failed when they did not order further scans and testing, and he was failed when they discharged him in pain without seeing a doctor. There was nothing Dubbo Base Hospital did right during those 18 hours. The doctors and nurses at Dubbo Base Hospital failed at every opportunity to treat Dougie correctly. It's atrocious. Dubbo Base Hospital should be ashamed. They should be embarrassed by how poor the standards of care is. They should be appalled at the state of treatment they provide Aboriginal people. And this is a hospital where 30% of patients are Aboriginal. My message to Dubbo Base Hospital is this: think long and hard about how you are hurting your patients, especially First Nations mob. The poor standard of care at Dubbo Base Hospital is what killed my son and the reason my family are suffering with grief and heartbreak. Everyone working in the healthcare system in this country should reflect on the reality of the care you are providing First Nations people, reflect on the hurt and you are causing so many Aboriginal families. The reality is my family is that Dougie died. Stomach ulcers are not complicated. It's not a complicated medical condition. Ulcers are common and very easy to treat. Dougie should have walked out of that hospital on his way to recovery. He should have lived a long and healthy life with us, with his children and grandchild. Instead, he walked out of that hospital to his demise. There is no healing without justice. Justice will only be served when an Aboriginal person can walk into a hospital in this country without being scared they might not walk out. The coroner has made the findings that one doctor in particular, Dr. Nushai, that his conduct while diagnosing and treating Dougie was below standards for a senior doctor. I think it's disgraceful that Dr. Nushai, a senior doctor for 6 years of experience working in the emergency department, made a diagnosis of cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome without knowing the symptoms and the cause of this condition. What a scary thought. The experts have gave evidence that one of the key symptoms in this medical condition is vomiting and nausea. That's what hyperemesis means. It's literally in the name. Dougie told doctors that night that he didn't have any nausea or vomiting, and Dr. Nushai admitted that he knew that Dougie didn't have those symptoms. Dr. Nushai diagnosed our son without considering any other possibilities. He didn't make any records of examination of Dougie or of his incorrect diagnosis or of his order to administer droperidol, a very serious sedative. How can we trust the health system to treat us properly, and how can we trust the doctors if this is the standard of practice? The coroner has found that Dr. Nushai's treatment of Dougie was so poor, he's being referred to the Healthcare Complaints Commission. Dr. Nushai is a bad doctor. His actions show that he is, the evidence in the inquest shows that he is, and the referral to the HCCC shows that he is. In my opinion, based on the coroner's findings, Dr. Nushai shouldn't be treating Aboriginal patients, and he shouldn't be treating patients at all. There is no justice without healing, and healing for my family is seeing Dr. Nushai be held accountable for his poor conduct as a doctor. Let this inquest be a warning to all doctors in this country. You cannot get away with treating patients poorly. You cannot get away with not doing your job properly. These hospitals and doctors keep using fancy words to describe racism: cognitive bias, anchoring bias, early diagnostic closure, colourblind bias. They can only use whatever term they want at the end of the day. It means blackfellas get killed in the health system, and that's racism. We know what racism is, better than any person, court or institution in this colony, because we face the ugly truth of racism every single day and every time we walk into a hospital. We define racism by the outcomes and impacts of our mob's experiences and the truth that Australia's healthcare system is rotten to the core with racism.